Welcome to another episode of the Tech Transfer Podcast. I'm Dave Brown. I'm here with Mike Hendron, who's the director of the Rollins Center for Entrepreneurship here at BYU. Mike, do you mind introducing yourself a bit and telling us what the Rollins Center does?
Sure, Dave. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Great to be part of this. I have been at BYU about 16 years now. Started out in the strategy program, came here from BYU University of Texas at Austin as a new faculty member. And so I've seen a lot of BYU, done a lot of different things. And I switched over to entrepreneurship about 8 years ago and started working with the Rollins Center shortly after that. So I've been doing things on and off with the Rollins Center in a variety of capacities for almost 8 years now. And I've been in this director role for about a year, coming up on a year now. So see a lot. I started out, and you may get into this a little bit more, but started out in the tech industry out in Silicon Valley, BYU undergrad, MBA back in Virginia, did some strategy consulting in the tech industry before going back to get a PhD. So it's been a long route to get here.
And where were you in the tech industry? Who were you working for?
So I was working actually for a Japanese company. I had some Japanese language experience, which helped me get the job. I grew up in the Bay Area, had some tech and coding experience from my high school days. So lucky enough to grow up in California where tech was kind of part of our, or the air that we were breathing. So had a little bit of experience, had worked with a tech startup back in DC as part of my political science internship. So pivoted from poli-sci to into general business and tech. So worked for a Japanese company that was doing import-export. Most of the work I did was facilitating export of tech products from the US to Asia. But it was also mid-90s, and so it was an exciting time. The internet was sort of coming of age. We were looking at sort of software tech startups that we could support and help enter the Asian markets. And I met with a lot of founders in the 90s, some really cool companies like the founder of E-Trade, the founder of a bunch of the initial search engines before Google became the dominant search engine. In fact, we launched InfoSeek Japan. So we had a Japanese language search engine that we worked on. So it was kind of a great role where I got to meet a lot of cool people, see the hardware, software, internet side of the tech industry as it was really taking off in the 90s.
That's cool. But yeah, I remember on InfoSeek and Lycos and AltaVista and all this, right?
Yep. Those were the search engines before Google.
Yeah. We're in DC. In DC, were you part of the Washington seminar? Was that the?
Yep. Yes, I did Washington seminar. I was actually with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which was normally a lobbying group, but they were also trying to get in on the wave of technology. And so they were partnered with some software developers and investors to do a product. It was essentially a global commerce platform. So allowing companies, say you're in the US trying to source products, manufacturing from China or somewhere else in the world, you could go online, put in a request for quote and indicate what you wanted to manufacture. It's essentially Alibaba. Just 30 years before Alibaba came out. So great idea. Unfortunately, they missed the internet wave. And so a couple other companies came out that were actually using the internet for the communications. The partner with the Chamber of Commerce was doing a proprietary dial-up network. So old technology. So
their own network.
Yeah, learned a lot. Saw kind of how global markets could benefit from technology really early on. And again, help me pivot from poli-sci to tech industry.
Yeah, that really shows how important timing is for a startup, right? And so I'm the poli-sci major too. And my second summer in DC, I did Washington summer, that different internship. The second summer, there was a new search engine. It was Google. We were using it in the office. Seemed good. So I remember that coming along. But well, great. So I always explain the Rollins Center to people. I say, because people come talk to us about startup companies, licensing technologies from the university. I say, okay, well, we do the IP here, license the patents, but the Rollins Center is really the student entrepreneurship center. You exist. I think the mission mainly is to help student entrepreneurs succeed, right?
Yeah. We've had a few mission statements over the years. Probably the simplest one is to say we help students start businesses. And I like to help them run businesses as well. So it's not always just the starting, but it goes back even to the 80s when initial donors were excited about helping entrepreneurship kind of flourish at BYU. And BYU is a naturally entrepreneurial place. I've been pulling some data, looking at LinkedIn profiles, and the number of alumni from BYU who indicate either owner or founder somewhere in their profile. So maybe the current or former job. We're actually tied for first in the country for the number of alumni that are are business owners or founders. So there's something about sort of who we are, as a people. We're entrepreneurial generally, and
I've got to know who we're tied with.
Boulder. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. Wow.
yeah, on the metric of owners. So the metric of business owners, we're tied with Boulder. If you throw in founders, it's companies like it's universities like Stanford and MIT that clearly dominate the founder world. But just business owners, we're tied with Boulder. So anyway, I think a lot of owners don't go to college or they don't stay in college. So it says something about BYU, like we mix academics and entrepreneurial efforts in a really unique way. So we support entrepreneurship of all types. You have companies like Novell and WordPerfect again, which I dealt with in my early career, that were kind of the foundational tech companies in the Utah Valley, have gone on to sort of spawn through investment and employees going out and starting companies, a lot of tech companies. So we do kind of have this tech-heavy, tech-centric view of what entrepreneurship is, and we've supported that for a long time. But really, I take a much broader view of entrepreneurship. Again, I started my career there. I've been coding since I was in junior high. I like software. I have a software simulation business as well. But I also grew up, my mom was a small business owner, retail business. So I grew up in retail. I've had my own consulting practice. My wife is a piano teacher part-time at home. So I've seen the way entrepreneurship works in many different domains. And so we try to encourage entrepreneurship of all types and support it in any way that sort of it emerges, all the way up through, again, invention-based entrepreneurship that comes out and comes through the tech transfer office.
And why is BYU so entrepreneurial? It definitely is, but why?
I think it's cultural. Part of it maybe is the Latter-day Saint Church kind of history of being sort of entrepreneurial, going out and making it happen yourselves. I think there's a lot of experience sort of getting out in front of people through sales and missionary work and things like that helps people be more entrepreneurial. Whatever it is. And in fact, if you look at the state as a whole, so University of Utah, UVU, and other Utah schools also are very high on this measure of alumni owners of business. So whatever it is, our state, we like to work hard, play hard, and build stuff that other people hopefully like too. So
yeah. Well, and we benefit from that a lot here. So at the Rollins Center, you have a number of programs and initiatives that are designed to help entrepreneurs succeed. I know I've dealt with a lot of students in the Sandbox program. You have a study abroad program. You have these grants, the validation grants. Can you tell us about the main programs you run and maybe some ideas for the future?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say what we do first and foremost because we really do so many different things and we try to support all of them in a sense equally. But what I like to think of this is we help create a journey from exploring entrepreneurship all the way through launching and running a successful business. And a lot of these different programs kind of fit at different stages. So we have the Creators Program, which is really, it's like the Entrepreneurship Club. It's I want to try out entrepreneurship. I think I might be interested. I want to come do some workshops, meet with other students who are entrepreneurial, come hear some lectures. We have lecture series and introductory classes that kind of expose people to what entrepreneurship is about. And they get to try it out a little bit and see if it's something they want to pursue. So that's kind of the top of the funnel, the top of this pipeline.
Well, and people who aren't on campus might not know these are fun things too. These aren't dry programs. You have your Italian soda bar there and like your meeting space now in your new space south of campus. It's kind of a fun thing to be involved with.
Yeah, we try to make it fun and enjoyable. So I'm meeting sort of here from our new space. This is actually one of the meeting rooms we've got. It's kind of a small classroom / builder space. So we've got about 6,000 square feet down here south of campus now, separating us from the Tanner building, which is the business school building where we've been for 25 years. There, I think, was this perception that the business building, the business school is kind of scary. It's daunting. It's highly competitive. So a lot of people, I think, didn't feel comfortable just coming and hanging out over there with us. So we tried to create more of a fun, friendly atmosphere where everybody felt like they could come, try things out in a safe environment and learn from others and learn about themselves, what they really are interested in pursuing. So yeah, we tried to keep it fun. We're still kind of getting set up. Yeah, we have our flavored sodas. We have events. We've got a nice big lounge area for people to come and hang out in now. Over the summer, we run a launchpad program. So kind of back to programs, which essentially is like if you're an entrepreneur, but you want to do an internship, this is what you would do. You basically work on your business over the summer. And we've expanded this program a lot over the last several years. We're actually up to about 80 teams of students working on their businesses this summer with us. We allocate space in our new building here. We also have rooms in the Tanner building where they can go work on their business kind of full-time, have a space to work out of. And then we have forums where they meet with each other, discuss kind of how their business is progressing, as well as guest lecturers every other week. So programming like that supports more the students who've gone through the top of the funnel. They're now in the middle kind of exploring and trying to build their business. And in fact, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So instead of being at home in their apartment or in their garage working on something, they're here with like 80 other people doing the same sort of thing. So, and then they have all these supports, right?
Yeah. You've got kind of the energy of being around other people, mentoring and, support in whatever way they need it, whatever we can provide it over the summer too. So it's, so back to some of the other programs, we have so the introductory path, and then we have more structured programs that help people really get going and starting a business. You mentioned Sandbox. Sandbox is one that's been going for several years now that's done really well in terms of launching software-specific businesses. Crocker Fellows has been around for well over a decade, and that was kind of the original kind of cross-campus collaborative entrepreneurial incubator. So Crocker Fellows includes both software and hardware technology. So most of the devices are Internet of Things, IoT devices. Owlet is one of the better known companies that's come out of Crocker. And so we've got that program. So those programs basically are curriculum classroom based, where you basically work on finding and building an idea from scratch. And they're great, very successful at getting companies built and launched. A lot of the other programs, though, are just to support students who find it on their own. And so we have what's called the SEED program. The SEED program runs all year. And any student who's got basically a company they're actively working on, most of them are revenue generating, or if it's more of a tech idea, they're actively trying to build a product or build a solution. They can gather. We have, again, weekly events for them, getting together, mentoring and other support for those students that are actively in this building a business, running a business.
And outside of the business school, where are they most coming from? Like which college do you think or department?
We do run the numbers. I think we have students from every part of campus, and it's probably 50% from the business school, but the rest are probably spread across probably STEM, so engineering, sciences, as well as some students will come from communications, fine arts. We'll get some from humanities, social sciences. A lot of entrepreneurs, again, are just by their nature entrepreneurial. They started doing things in high school. They're always looking for something to do. They see a market need. They like to build something, sell something. It's a way for them to make money rather than going and getting a job. So I think the entrepreneurial personality is found everywhere on campus. So
I think there are a lot of smart entrepreneurial people, like in education, nursing, humanities, who might not do it because they just don't think of themselves as being an entrepreneur. I would love for them to just walk over to the Rollins Center,
Yeah, and that's part of our challenge is how do we get everybody engaged? We usually connect with about 4,000 students a year across campus. So we're connecting with a lot, but there's always students that we're missing. We just did scholarship reviews, and for some group of that pool, they had to write an essay about the businesses they're working on, and there are a bunch of people we'd never heard of that are doing amazing things and running businesses. So that they're out there. That's part of the thing we struggle with the most is how do we make sure everybody knows about us. We're going to try to get more engaged in freshman orientation. So basically, show up at BYU your freshman year, you'll start to hear about entrepreneurship and know you can come find some support whenever you're ready.
Yeah, and one vision, you really have to think with any university, BYU is special. Being church sponsored, having the culture that we have that's a huge draw for all of us, right? But but for any university, you have to think in the future, it's getting easier and easier to learn on your own. You can have ChatGPT be your tutor, whatever. Like, what are the advantages of going to campus? I think support, like the sorts of supports you're providing are important. I could see a student coming here specifically to show up and work on launching their company over the course of 4 years. Do you have students who are doing that currently?
Yeah, I guess the bigger problem we have is like students that don't want to graduate because they like to do that. So we have like 6th, 7th, 8th year seniors that are still working on school. But I think there is this tension between if you have a really great idea, you want to work really hard on that. You may not want to spend a whole lot of time in class or doing your homework or preparing for tests. We try to balance that out and make sure they realize there is stuff to be learned in all your classes, and there is a value to a degree, which I think sets you apart. If you come to BYU, you have a minor in entrepreneurship that lets you take a bunch of classes. There's a business minor that helps you understand sort of basic business principles, because I think starting a business isn't necessarily that hard, but a lot of people make a lot of mistakes along the way. They don't necessarily run their business very well. It's not very efficient. They don't necessarily meet the needs of their customers very well. They may not even follow the rules they're supposed to be following. So we try to encourage them to realize that studying at BYU can help you be a better entrepreneur and prepare by, for many students, they need to develop like a passion and a skill that's kind of the core of what they want to do in life. And so, that's where, whatever major you're in, if it's something you love, I think that can become a seed for some business opportunity down the road in the future too. So.
Yeah, and there are definitely hot spots like in life sciences. We've had so many. I just saw in the 40 under 40, in the local magazine that has youth entrepreneurs. One of them's Chad Pollard, who is renewed biotechnology out of life sciences. We have people like him who are really tech savvy and then work with you guys, work with us, and launch some companies.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting is there's like so many things going on across campus. And so part of what I want to do now that we're down here a little bit off campus is use this as an opportunity to bring more people to us from everywhere on campus. And we've got good relationships with the colleges, with the deans and associate deans and faculty in many of those schools. But I think we can do more, not only encourage, again, students in their programs to be entrepreneurial, but also to help faculty to think more entrepreneurially. Yeah. They'll come to you with an idea, you patent it, you maybe license it, but I think we could help more faculty do that, and also more faculty do it from a sort of an entrepreneurial mindset to begin with, rather than just kind of throwing it over the wall to somebody else to figure out what to do with. So
yeah, we have a little bit. So professors are all across the spectrum. Like most will be like, look, I want to be a professor. I don't want to learn business, law, accounting, et cetera. But some of them do. Some of them want to launch companies. So we feel a little bit like you do with the students, where it's like, well, we don't want you to stop being a professor. Like, how do we do this? And so, but increasingly, I think academics, probably every university, definitely here, want to be free to start a company on the side or be part of something, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah. And I think, whatever we can do to support, and I think a lot of the faculty who want to do that want to do it because it creates learning opportunities and experiential opportunities for students as well. That's what's great. Tim Jenkins in life sciences and others over there just created a great pipeline of learning opportunities. You've got Brian Whitfield in chemistry, who's done great things with his, initiatives to take technology to the classroom in the space of chemistry and other sort of lab settings. So really great examples of benefiting students by what they're able to sort of glean and learn from in the classroom and research labs too.
Yeah, and when we talk about business, like entrepreneurs listen to our podcast, and that's great. That's who we want to listen to it. But when we're talking about faculty members in business, you would assume that they'd be motivated financially, but I've got to say that's almost never the case. Usually, what you say, they're looking for experiences for the students, or at BYU, and it is our policy as well. They want to get the technologies out where they'll help actual people, like they want to solve problems.
Yeah, and I think, and I think I like that of our students as well. It really is, we teach a value creation mindset around startups and entrepreneurial efforts. So it's customer first, it's problem first, it's what does the world need first, and then do a really good job at delivering that. And that can be from a restaurant all the way up to a life sciences, biotech innovation. Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to change the world, create jobs, do all kinds of good. And that's, again, I think that's a part of the mission, the BYU culture as well, that drives a lot of this too.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. And so your background, you've studied and worked in innovation and strategy. What have you learned from being with the Rollins Center that affects your academic work? Do you see a connection there?
I think I spent a long time before I became an academic, so I'd seen kind of the practical world, the real world. So I went into academia trying to bring that in. And in fact, I studied innovation in my kind of PhD program years. I was really interested in like how people change the organizations they're part of. So like I was looking at bottom-up innovation. So people who are on the front lines understand the problems, see the problems, and want to fix them. But I was also interested in how companies innovate, how startups emerge, how founding teams emerge. So I did a lot of research on all of those things. And what I've realized is, especially watching hundreds of students try to start businesses, is that the theory is way simpler than the reality. And so it's much more complicated. It's much harder to predict what's going to work, why it will work. And I think I think we get better at helping students be entrepreneurial by watching them and supporting them and learning from them than we do by maybe sitting back and thinking deep thoughts all the time about what it takes to be a good entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So understanding, so it's so hard. I always feel like, so my kids are teenagers, and so I work with teenagers in my church calling and so on. So I feel like if I'm ever going to understand teenagers, it's right now. Like a few years from now, don't ask me, because when you're not immersed in it, you can't. So you're immersed in student entrepreneurs. What do you know about student entrepreneurs that the average person wouldn't know?
Um, well, one, I think there's no stereotype, because there really is no one flavor of student entrepreneur. They're all unique, and I think the ones that are successful bring like a passion for whatever it is they care a lot about. I think the ones that are successful that I've observed are the ones that really are laser focused, kind of super driven by an idea, and really good at, they're action oriented. I mean, I think a bias for action is the most common thing I see among student entrepreneurs. And I think the reason that works is because if you go get a job, you may have a bias for action, but you're sort of constrained by the organization or your job or roles or the people around you. Being an entrepreneur allows you to have this bias for action and actually control what goes on, because you can just go do whatever you want. Again, like a high level of energy, an ability to just like focus and get stuff done. And the good ones, I think, are really good about helping other people work with them along the way. At some point you got to move from just being, one or two people to building an organization that can actually run the business. So
that's completely consistent with what I've seen with them. And maybe there might be something special about Gen Z in terms of entrepreneurship too, right? They are very nice, like they work well with other people. Like maybe that'll help them form teams and be successful. I hope so.
Yeah, I think I think they embrace sort of like everyone come as they are and let's figure out how to work together. I think that's at the core of entrepreneurship, right? I tell everybody, I'm not going to tell you your idea is bad, because I'm not every customer on the planet. Like there may be somebody out there that likes what you want to do. So if I tell you that's a dumb idea, I'm probably not representing the people you need to be talking to. So, again, it's like, you got to go learn for yourself who's out there and if somebody actually cares about what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And I see you in the Rollins Center is really pushing validation at this point. You have your business plan competitions and your whole process around, let's do some real world customer testing before we invest a lot of time and effort in something. How are the competitions part of that?
So we've actually moved away from competitions, other than really the big idea pitch. So the big idea competition, which we do at the beginning of the school year, typically just to get everybody thinking about ideas. And I think that one still works well as a competition, because it's kind of, you can see a lot of different ideas. There's a sort of an energy around hearing ideas. And it's sort of low stakes. And so we don't give a ton of money away in that competition. What we really moved towards is these validation and traction grants. And a lot of these are funded through the Miller family donations that helped fund our competitions in the past. We've repurposed sort of those endowment proceeds towards these grants, where basically you pitch us and say, I've validated this idea. Here's my roadmap to sort of build a solution and go to market with the solution. Here's why I could use some money to help me with this. And we have them initially, they just do a pitch deck submission. We review those and we'll award $2,000. If they make it through that stage and they show some progress with the $2,000, then we have a committee that they pitch to. We have both a product committee as well as a software tech committee, investors in the community. And again, all the way through 2 more rounds of $10,000, so up to $25,000 money in the main Traction Gap program to help students start these businesses. So that's the model we're using instead of a competition, because it allows us to stay engaged, create a feedback mechanism where they have some accountability need to report. There's milestones before they get the next round of money, so it sort of encourages progress. And if they abandon early, they haven't sort of taken all of the money. So we had a great competition series with the business model competition for many years, and then we would do the Miller New Venture Challenge to highlight sort of really successful businesses. Then we also ran the global business model competition with universities across the country and around the world. What we realized was again, competitions are not very good at picking long-term successes. They're good at picking people who are really good at sort of selling an idea, that are passionate about an idea, that sort of have an emotional story often. But many times those don't go beyond sort of the competition and maybe another 6 months, and then they would often fizzle out. So we're trying to be more efficient in allocating the resources we have to help the students that are most likely to take advantage of it and build something.
Okay, and I will say usually when there's some other competition on campus, like Student Innovator of the Year comes out of engineering, or when we do ours in the fall or whatever else, you're usually involved in supporting in some way. But I do think the move to validation makes all kinds of sense. People are going to wonder, like, I have a good idea. You mentioned outlet, but what are some of the success stories that have come out of BYU? What do you see as big student success stories?
So, a lot of the companies, those familiar with Utah driving up and down Interstate I-15, we have Lehigh, kind of the tech corridor there. Many of those companies are BYU companies. In fact, I was just looking at the list of companies that have done Y Combinator that have come out of BYU, and of 24 that have done Y Combinator, which is, probably the lead incubator in the U.S., 17 of those have been BYU companies, and those include companies like Podium, Weave. You've got other great success stories like BambooHR, Pluralsight, et cetera. That Qualtrics is obviously a huge success story, probably in terms of market cap, market value, one of the biggest success stories. But again, looking at, if you look at Y Combinator's top 50 companies, so they're top 1% of alumni companies from Y Combinator, two of those companies are Utah companies. So Weave and Podium are two of their highest revenue, and that puts them in the league with Airbnb and other big name companies that have gone through Y Combinator. So, but I think we should also always remember kind of the even go back to Novell and We're Perfect and a bunch of other companies that came. So I think we're on the third or fourth generation of really strong, successful BYU companies emerging.
Yeah, and you see just going up and down I-15 in Utah Valley, you see all the tech companies just in the past decade. It's amazing how many have grown in. And I always wonder how many of these are coming out of BYU. It's a substantial number. I don't know how to break it down, but it is.
Yeah, and it's we have maybe some momentum, which helps BYU. I think they're also we have collaborative teams. We have students that have teammates from the U of U, from UVU. So It's actually nice to see the ecosystem kind of merging a little bit and having collaboration across universities.
Absolutely. And one other point I wanted to hit with you is I also see the Rollins Center as a good connection point with alumni who are business people, with mentors, people like that. How do you connect with that group?
So we have a really great, long-standing group of donors, and we call it the Founders Group. That group has kind of been our core central group of people who have engaged. They come and do guest lectures. Many of them are adjuncts, that they support our students as mentors. But we really have a massive pool in Utah of people who can come and help. So over the summer, for example, all of those teams, we find a mentor to work with. We work with other organizations outside, like the EO, the Entrepreneurship, the EA, the Entrepreneurship Association, that was started by some BYU alumni. We have younger alumni, which actually we really try to engage with, because often their current situation is closer to what the students are seeing, rather than somebody who graduated 30 years ago and has basically had their success and retired now. So we're trying to connect more with younger alumni in the last who've sort of finished the last 10 years. And we have always open to new people reaching out to us, connecting with. I probably get 2 or 3 people a week that I meet that, again, are examples of great, successful people that would be great in the classroom, great as lecturers, great as guests, and great as mentors for the students. And so
I was going to say, if anyone listening is interested in doing something like that, definitely reach out to Mike. It's fun engaging with the students, just having the energy and seeing what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have some mentors just like to be, we call them lead mentors, which is like helping them with accountability, the high level view of their business. And then they always need subject matter expertise, like industry specific expertise, background, connections. All of those things are really critical, and really is part of our mission here. So I think we'd love to help alumni more. That's the one that we can't do well, is we don't have a lot of resources to help alumni who want to be entrepreneurial, but that's something down the road that we would be interesting as well, is to help continue EAD or other avenues to help us provide better support for alumni who want to be entrepreneurial, because many cases it's 5, 10, 15 years down the road after you graduate that you really have the resources and the know-how to launch a venture.
Okay. Oh, super interesting. Well, great. Well, I know we're about out of time. I mentioned the Rollins Center in just about every episode of the podcast, so I thought we finally should have you on, Mike. So thanks for going on. Our student entrepreneurs are all your student entrepreneurs too. If they license the technology from us, we tell them march over to the Entrepreneurship Center and do some validation or figure something out. So thanks for all you're doing with them. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a team effort here at BYU, so we can do it without you guys too. So
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Mike.